Chapter 527. Cheating others. The auction continued, but it wasn't as heated as the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing the day before. Although the items being auctioned weren't cheap, there weren't many bidders, and the bidding wasn't intense either. Many people gave up after seeing that there were people fighting over the items. It wasn't something that could be taken or not, and there wasn't a need to ruin their relationship over these things. These people are really rich. Xiao Xiao couldn't help but click her tongue when she heard the tens of millions. I could buy a Ferrari with just a little bit of it. Didn't you cheat Wu Qintian enough yesterday? Lin Yi said, amused. Heh heh. Who told him to mess with me? Xiao Xiao said matter-of-factly. I cheated him a lot. He's lucky I didn't teach him a lesson. Right, Lin Yi, why did you come to the auction? You and them. Xiao Xiao didn't think much about it before, but when she remembered that Fatty Lai called Lin Yi boss, her eyes widened. You're that fatty's boss? A few black lines appeared on Lin Yi's forehead. He was a little speechless. He'd neglected the fact that Xiao Xiao was beside him, and he hadn't told Fatty Lai what to watch out for, and now Xiao Xiao saw through him. That fatty's the CEO of a pharmaceutical company. He saw that I'm strong, so he wanted to be my follower, Lin Yi explained. Oh, I see. That fatty seems to be very rich. Xiao Xiao narrowed her eyes at Fatty Lai. Hey, Fatty, I'm your sis-in-law. Aren't you going to give me a gift? Wah. Fatty Lai's eyes widened as he looked at Lin Yi, confused. Ignore her, she's sick. Lin Yi waved his hand, gesturing for Fatty Lai to ignore Xiao Xiao. Fatty Lai laughed dryly and turned his head away, wondering if this girl had anything to do with his boss. That's all. He seems to listen to you a lot. Don't tell me you have a share in that pharmaceutical company. Xiao Xiao wasn't stupid. Naturally, she didn't believe Lin Yi's words. Was it just martial arts that could make that fatty listen to her like that? That doesn't seem possible, right? Lin Yi ignored her and turned his attention to the auction stage. The next auction item was the Millennium Snow Lotus, but Lin Yi's target was the box that contained the Snow Lotus. TSK. If you don't want to say it, then I won't. Xiao Xiao was a little embarrassed that Lin Yi was ignoring her again. Why was she so bad in his eyes? How was Tang Yun stronger than him? The next auction item is a 1,000-year-old Snow Lotus. The auctioneer slowly placed a delicate wooden box on the stage and said slowly, I believe everyone knows the uses of the Millennium Snow Lotus, so I don't need to explain. Everyone knows that a Snow Lotus is rare even in 100 years, let alone a Millennium Snow Lotus. This 1,000-year-old Snow Lotus was found in a cave. It's been around for a long time. When it was found, it was stored in this box. It doesn't matter if he's here to cause trouble or not, we can't give up. Dr. Kang's face was unfriendly as well, but in order for House Kong to be promoted to a noble house, they had to get this Millennium Snow Lotus. Otherwise, everything would be over. 20 million. Kong Guifeng called out a higher price, hoping to scare Fatty Lai and make him give up. 25 million. Fatty Lai wasn't scared at all, calling out a higher price. 30 million. Kong Guifeng said immediately. 50 million. Fatty Lai said calmly. Kong Guifeng was furious. There were only 2 people bidding, why did you raise the price by 20 million all of a sudden? What was the meaning of this? Did he have too much money to spend, or was he just trying to scare people? 55 million. Kong Guifeng looked at his father, who nodded before continuing. Fatty Lai was representing Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, and House Kong wasn't the only one who needed the 1,000-year-old Snow Lotus. Other people might need it too. Xiaolong wanted to raise the price, but he couldn't. House Kong really didn't have any money left. Xiaolong wasn't an impulsive and reckless person. He spent 15 million on Wu Qintian yesterday, and House Kong only had around 80 million left. It could be said that the price just now was House Kang's limit. "Grandpa, we don't have any money left." Xiaolong took a deep breath and said unwillingly. "We still have to buy it first. We can't back out now." Dr. Kong gritted his teeth. This 1,000-year-old snow lotus had to be in his hands, or all of House Kang's plans would be ruined. They had even taken out 2 pre-sale products of the skin beautifying golden creation for auction tonight. If they couldn't get the 1,000-year-old snow lotus, how were they going to deliver it? Thinking about the golden creation and skin beautifying golden creation products later, Dr. Kang's heart calmed down a little. 101 million. Xiaolong didn't pretend anymore. Since he had to get it, he might as well raise the price bit by bit. Let's see if Fatty Lai had the patience to keep this up. The price exceeded 100 million, and Fatty Lai had to turn to look at Lin Yi. As far as he was concerned, House Kong was at its limit. He didn't want to give up now. "Boss, should we still bid?" Fatty Lai whispered. "If that box is really that important, I think we should go for it again. We can increase the price appropriately. You just need to control it well." Lin Yi nodded. With the income from yesterday's pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, Lin Yi didn't really care about the money. "You want that box?" Xiao Xiao heard Fatty Lai's words and looked at Lin Yi curiously. "You don't want that 1,000-year-old snow lotus?" Lin Yi didn't want to explain, but he was afraid that Xiao Xiao's laughter would be heard again, so he explained, "What I want is the box outside, not the lotus." "Ah. What do you want the box for?" Xiao Xiao asked curiously. "Don't ask so much. I'll tell you when we get back." Lin Yi didn't want to talk too much with Xiao Xiao. "Humph, what's with your attitude?" Xiao Xiao wasn't happy. "Hey, if I help you get the box, you'll be my boyfriend?" "You have a way?" Lin Yi asked, ignoring Xiao Xiao's words. "Of course." Xiao Xiao nodded and rolled her eyes. "Do you agree or not? What do you want to do?" Lin Yi, naturally, wouldn't agree to Xiao Xiao's random suggestion. "Don't worry about it. If you agree, then it's a deal." Xiao Xiao winked at Lin Yi. "Forget it." Lin Yi shrugged. Lin Yi couldn't agree to something like this just because of the box. "Humph." Xiao Xiao was furious. She glared at Lin Yi. "Then you can't ignore me from now on, okay? We'll talk about it after you get the box." Lin Yi didn't object this time. "You made me spend 15 million yesterday, and I haven't even settled the score with you yet. You came to me on your own accord. If I don't teach you a lesson, you'll think that I'm easy to bully, won't you?" With that thought, Xiaolong had a plan. He didn't look at Xiao Xiao anymore and turned to Fatty Lai. He asked in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing, "Mr. Lai, so this is the box you want? Not the Millennium Snow Lotus?" "Yeah, I'm helping her buy this box." Fatty Lai understood what Xiao Xiao was trying to say. He had to cooperate with her, but he didn't know the details of her plan, so he felt awkward. "This time, you have no choice but to buy it." "All right. 50 million it is then." "Thank you, Kong, for helping me." Fatty Lai's expression was also very interesting. He gritted his teeth and said hatefully. After Fatty Lai finished speaking, he sat back down with a gloomy face. However, his heart was bursting with joy. He didn't expect the girl beside his boss to be so powerful. With just a few words, she got the box for half the price. This was amazing. He secretly gave Xiao Xiao a thumbs up. Xiao Xiao grinned and turned to Lin Yi. "Hey, I did what I said, didn't I?" "Ha!" Lin Yi didn't expect Xiao Xiao to have so many tricks up her sleeves. She just tricked someone yesterday, and now she's doing it again. Not only that, she made the victim think that she got a great bargain. "Aren't you going to thank me?" Xiao Xiao was a little displeased. She was taking credit from Lin Yi, but Lin Yi didn't look too happy. Didn't I talk to you? Lin Yi asked. Humph. Xiao Xiao turned her head away. What kind of person was this? He helped her out of kindness, but he didn't even say thank you. On the other hand, on Dr. Kang's side, Dr. Kong and Kong Guifeng were both very happy. Dr. Kong even praised, Guifeng, this son of yours is not simple at all. It looks like our house Kong will be flourishing in his hands in the future. This 1,000-year snow lotus worth more than 100 million has been cut in half. Huh, it's just for the sake of the situation. Zhao Long said humbly. 100 million is too high of a cost. Even if we make the skin beautifying golden creation, we can only make 30 or so servings. Even if we sell it for 5 million each, it'll barely cover our costs. Although we're doing everything we can to become a noble house, isn't it better if we can save some money? That Xiao Xiao probably hates your guts right now. Dr. Kong smiled happily. People of the same trade are enemies. Even without what happened today, they'd hate each other already. Zhao Long didn't care. He said proudly, that girl was the one who tricked me into eating yesterday. If I don't make her pay, how can I face her? But, will they go back on their word? Find some reason to reject it? Kong Guifeng was worried. He was afraid that he'd lose the meat that was right by his mouth. That was 50 million. For the Kong family, this was definitely a huge sum of money. Of course it's possible. That girl is full of **t. She might say that she doesn't like it anymore and wants to go back on her word. Zhao Long had thought of this. So, we need to hurry. I'll go to the backstage and do the paperwork. We'll sell the box to Fatty Lai in front of everyone. I don't believe that he'll be so embarrassed as to not buy it. Dr. Kong and Kong Guifeng nodded in agreement. Zhao Long's idea wasn't bad. In fact, when Zhao Long brought the box to Fatty Lai looked like he was in pain. Chapter 531. Pay back money without paying, then. Make it cheaper. Xiao Xiao said disinterestedly, seeing that she couldn't get Zhao Long to agree. Huh, I'll lose half of the money and sell it to you. Isn't that cheap? Zhao Long smiled. I spent more than 100 million on it. Didn't you want to buy that snow lotus? That's just an accessory. Xiao Xiao humphed. 10 million. If it's okay, I'll let him buy it. If it's not okay, then I don't want it. I'm a young girl, what's wrong with going back on my word? Xiao Xiao's words were a little shameless, but she also pointed out that she was a girl and a young girl. Even if she acted shamelessly, Zhao Long couldn't do anything to her. Zhao Long sucked in a breath of cold air when he heard that. He had underestimated Xiao Xiao. He was sure that Fatty Lai wouldn't go back on his word for the sake of his reputation, but he didn't expect Xiao Xiao to go back on her word. And if Xiao Xiao went back on her word, no one would be able to say anything. She said she didn't like it and didn't want it anymore, so naturally, Fatty Lai wouldn't buy it anymore. Everything was caused by Xiao Xiao, so why would Fatty Lai buy it if she didn't want it anymore? It didn't matter if he lost face or not anymore. Zhao Long frowned. This was a little troublesome. Things were out of his expectations. Xiao Xiao really wouldn't give him money so easily, 10 million. Isn't that too little? What if it's not even enough? Zhao Long naturally couldn't insist on 50 million. If he did, there would be no room for discussion. She wouldn't want it anymore. But he couldn't accept the 10 million that Xiao Xiao said. You guys want face and less money at the same time. How could there be such a good deal? Alright, 20 million is the most I'll give you. I'll remember this. Fatty Lai said faintly. Don't think that you're very smart. We'll see. Deal. Zhao Long heard Fatty Lai's tone and knew that he couldn't persist anymore. She had already gone back on her word. However, it was better than nothing. To him, it was already very good to be able to sell it for 20 million. What else could he ask for? After Xiaolong left, Fatty Light admired Xiao Xiao from the bottom of his heart. Wasn't he too good at playing dirty? Xiaolong must be really unlucky to have met her. I didn't know you had so many tricks up your sleeves. Lin Yi couldn't help but admire Xiao Xiao for cutting another 30 million in the blink of an eye. That's right. Humph, now you know the consequences of messing with me. Xiao Xiao looked at Lin Yi, pleased with herself. Let's see if you still dare mess with me. Ha! Lin Yi shrugged, not answering Xiao Xiao's question. Xiaolong returned to his seat with the 20 million check. He didn't get the 50 million he expected, but even so, Dr. Kong and Kong Guifeng were very happy. Although Lin Yi wasn't involved in the medicine company, many people knew that Lin Yi was the mastermind behind the scenes, so he wasn't afraid of Xiao Xiao finding out. You! Xiao Xiao was furious. Fine, I won't tell you. Tell me, do you know medicine? A little. Lin Yi didn't hide it anymore. The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing from yesterday, can you give me one? Xiao Xiao looked at Lin Yi expectantly. Xiao Xiao had given up on her illness, but who would want to die? She'd heard the auctioneer talk about the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing yesterday, and how it could cleanse one's bones and marrow. It was a miracle pill, and she wondered if it could improve her constitution. No. Lin Yi shrugged. What do you want? I'll eat it. Xiao Xiao said. You're not sick, you don't need to eat it. Lin Yi waved his hand. I'm not sick. How do you know I'm not sick? Xiao Xiao blinked. I've checked. Lin Yi said. But I don't see anything wrong with you. If there's a problem, eating it won't help. Oh. Xiao Xiao was a little disappointed, but Lin Yi was right, there was nothing wrong with her body no matter which hospital she went to. If Lin Yi really did notice something was wrong, then he'd be a god. You didn't have any signs of life in you before. Lin Yi frowned, but shook his head. You wouldn't understand even if I told you. It's a little weird, it's the first time I've met someone like you. Xiao Xiao blinked. She didn't think that Lin Yi would actually notice something was wrong with her body. But what was life? Xiao Xiao really didn't understand what Lin Yi meant. Then would you believe me if I said I'm going to die? Xiao Xiao asked after some hesitation. You won't die. Lin Yi looked at Xiao Xiao. You're still normal for now. Oh. Xiao Xiao didn't continue. She told Lin Yi about her situation because she wanted to see if Lin Yi had a solution, but she didn't want Lin Yi to pity her. In the auction, the price of the skin beautifying golden creation skyrocketed. It was already sold for 10 million. Dr. Kong couldn't stop smiling. He didn't expect this thing to be this valuable. The cost was reduced even more. The first skin beautifying golden creation was sold to a wealthy businessman at the price of 11 million. The noble houses didn't rush to make a move. They understood that since this medicine belonged to House Kong, they would definitely prepare it for them. They knew what House Kong was thinking. If they wanted to become a noble house, they needed to show some sincerity. So they didn't participate, but they still paid attention to it. The second pre-sale item was also sold for 11,500,000. The buyer was also a rich businessman. This was what House Kong wanted to see. They didn't want the noble houses to make a move now. If that happened, their plan wouldn't be able to go smoothly. He wanted to meet with the people in charge of the noble houses after the auction, and give each of them a skin-beautifying golden creation. Now that these people had benefited from him, he believed that they would definitely support him during the clan assembly. The second day of the auction ended smoothly. With Haitian's help, Dr. Kong met with the people in charge of the 4 noble houses and 5 small noble houses. Chapter 533. Chapter 533, House Yu's attitude. Hearing that House Kong had something to say, the people in charge of the houses all stayed behind. Most of them understood what House Kong was doing. It had to have something to do with the skin-beautifying golden creation. In one of the meeting rooms of House Yu's auction house, Yu Haitian received the heads of the houses. Wu Gonggao, the head of House Wu, was absent, and Wu Qintian was the representative. Xiao family, on the other hand, sent out their second son, Xiao Ben. Shuaixing didn't show up either, which surprised House Kong. After all, Yu Shuaixing was the one in charge of House Yu's external affairs, and Haitian was only the person in charge of House Yu's external businesses. In the morning, although Shuaixing wasn't there, Dr. Kong wasn't an idiot. He had already guessed that Shuaixing was controlling Haitian from behind. He thought that after throwing out enough chips, he would be able to see Shuaixing at night. But Shuaixing did have the right to put on airs, and Dr. Kong didn't think too much about it. Plus, this unexpected thought was fleeting. Very quickly, Dr. Kong was overwhelmed by the joy and hope of becoming a noble house. Dr. Kong, second uncle, has something to do tonight, so he won't be coming. He asked me to represent him, Haitian said faintly as he looked at Dr. Kong. His tone wasn't as warm as it was in the morning. But miracle Dr. Kong didn't mind. He thought that Haitian was doing this on purpose for others to see. After all, House Yu was the organizer of this event, and they couldn't just stand behind the other houses. That would cause a huge chain reaction. It's okay, Mr. Yu is busy, so he doesn't have to participate. Hearing Haitian's explanation, Dr. Kong thought that Haitian was giving him face, and he was even happier. Old Kong, why did you call us here? The one who spoke was the head of House Song, Song Xiangwen. House Song was one of the four great worlds, an ancient martial arts house. There was a mystic class master in the house, and he was the younger brother of the head, Song Xiangwen. But because he had no hope of breaking through, he went out to train, and had yet to return. Otherwise, House Song wouldn't be any less famous than House Wu. But even so, Song Xiangwen's words were still very firm, and this had something to do with his strength at the peak late phase of the golden class. I've called all of you here because I have a piece of good news to announce. Dr. Kong stood up and nodded at the representatives of each family. Then, he continued, after many years of dedicated research, our Kong family has finally made a breakthrough and developed the skin-beautifying golden creation. I won't go into too much detail about the effects of this medicine. It's just that it's still in the research phase and can't be mass-produced, so we've only produced a small batch. When are you going to treat me to beef noodles? I want a big bowl with meat. Xiao Xiao said. Eat and drink, and we'll discuss the company's development. Chapter 537. Chapter 537, Someone similar to you, oh, Yao Yao sis, I got it. Yushu spoke up suddenly. Liangzi realized that he couldn't get you, so he turned his attention to your sister. Meng Yao was taken aback by Yushu's words. Was that really what Pin Liang meant? So, he looked at Pin Liang, confused. Pin Liang was stunned by Yushu's words. He didn't think that Yushu would be able to come up with such an excuse. He coughed dryly and explained, I didn't mean it that way. Oh, did he find out that Shield Bro is Uncle Chu's illegitimate son? Yushu asked curiously. Shoo! Don't talk nonsense. Meng Yao's heart tightened when she heard Yushu mention Shield Bro. She glared at her. How could she let Pin Liang know about this? Yushu stuck her tongue out. I'm just joking, Shield Bro. What's that? Pin Liang was confused. What were these two girls talking about? Nothing, just say it. Meng Yao clearly didn't want to explain. Pin Liang didn't want to talk anymore. Who cared about Shield Bro? He needed to focus on his own matters first. He said, "What I mean is, Mengyao, do you have any sisters or anything like that?" Sisters? Mengyao blinked. What sisters? My sister is Yushu. I'm not talking about sisters, I'm talking about Uncle Chu. Do you have any other daughters? Pinliang asked carefully. Other daughters? Pinliang, what are you trying to say? Why are you stuttering? Can't you just say it all at once? Mengyao was a little angry. What was this guy trying to say? Was he trying to say that her father had an illegitimate son or daughter outside? Hey, Mengyao, I might have seen wrongly. It's fine, it's fine. Pinliang waved his hand and was about to leave when he added, how can there be such similar people in this world? Mengyao wasn't interested in Pinliang's words at first. She didn't want to call him back, but the second half of his sentence caught her by surprise. Pinliang, what do you mean by like? She called out. Pinliang, what do you mean? Is there anyone like me? That's right. Last night, I went to the Xuanyan Mountain Resort with my father. When I was climbing the mountain, I saw a woman who looked very similar to you. I should say, you're practically carved from the same mold. I thought it was you, so I called out your name. Pinliang said, pleased that he'd gotten Menyao's attention. The woman's body shook, and she turned around to look at me before leaving in a hurry. What? Does he really look like me? Menyao's breathing quickened as she stared fixedly at Pinliang. Yeah, but I took a closer look at her after she turned around. She's a little older than you. Pinliang shook his head. I thought she was your sister or something. Why would she turn around if I called Mengyao? Then did she say anything? Mengyao asked, panicking. She didn't say anything. She glanced at me and left quickly. Pinliang shook his head. I was curious, so I followed, but I lost track of them. Ah. Mengyao gasped, her eyes staring blankly at something. She stood beside her seat, deep in thought. Mom. It must be her mom. A voice called out in Menyao's heart, making her heart beat faster. How could there be someone so similar in this world? So, that person must be her mom. Mengyao had seen her mom's photo when she was young, and she looked exactly like her. In fact, she hadn't inherited Pengzhan's genes in terms of looks. She'd inherited her mom's excellent looks. So, when Pinliang mentioned this person, Menyao's first thought was that he'd seen her mom. Pinliang knew that his plan had worked when he saw Menyao's expression. He'd been chasing Mengyao for 3 years. How could he not know about Menyao's family background? He knew that Menyao's mother had a conflict with Pengzhan when Mengyao was young, and she left home. He hadn't heard from her all these years. It was impossible to say that Mengyao didn't miss her mom. Pinliang had grasped Menyao's psychological weakness, baiting her step by step. Now, it seemed like he'd succeeded halfway. Since you don't have a sister, then I must be mistaken. Forget it, pretend I didn't say anything. Pinliang shook his head and walked out of the classroom, counting silently as he walked. 1, 2, 3, wait. Pinliang heard Menyao's voice from behind. Pinliang's lips curled into a smile. He didn't believe that Mengyao wouldn't take the bait. Mengyao, is there anything else? Pinliang turned around, a fawning look on his face. Are you going to give me a chance to chase you? Stop it. Mengyao frowned. I won't talk to you anymore if you keep this up. No, I'll talk nicely then. Mengyao, why are you looking for me? Pinliang said that on purpose. His goal was to make Mengyao think that he didn't care about the girl who looked like him anymore. Instead, he cared about how to chase her. That way, she wouldn't be suspicious. Let me ask you. Did you really see a girl who looked like me at Mount Xuanyan? Mengyao asked. Yeah, but she's older than you. Naturally, I won't be interested. Pin Liang said confidently. Meng Yao, don't worry. You're irreplaceable in my heart. She only looks like you. I won't fall in love with someone else. Who's asking you that? Meng Yao wasn't happy. Pin Liang, don't say useless things. I'm asking you, where did you see her? Where is it? That's hard to say. It's a big mountain, I might be able to find it if I go. It's hard to explain. Pin Liang scratched his head, troubled. Bring me there. Meng Yao couldn't care less. She missed her mother for so many years. At this moment, she couldn't care less about going to school. She didn't think about whether Pin Liang was telling the truth or not. She only had one thought in her mind. That was to see her mother as soon as possible. Ah. Now. It's pretty late, and school hasn't ended yet. Pin Liang said awkwardly. Why don't we find a place to eat first? We'll talk about the mountain later. Chapter 538. Chapter 538, Destroying Family Harmony. Sigh, since you've said so, how can I not? Pin Liang seemed disappointed, but the more he acted like this, the less suspicious Meng Yao was. Then let's go. Meng Yao was anxious, afraid that her mother would go somewhere else if she was late. All these years, Meng Yao had been thinking about her mother all the time. She never said it out loud, but under her tough exterior, there was a deep longing for her mother. She was a 19-year-old girl after all. No matter how mature she pretended to be and how big sister she acted in front of Yushu, she still couldn't suppress her desire for family. Should she tell her father? Meng Yao shook her head. All these years, her father had never mentioned her mother in front of her. It was as if he had forgotten about her, focusing all his attention on the company. This made Meng Yao a little unhappy, but she couldn't do anything about it. After all, her father was equally important to her. She didn't know why her father and mother fought, and she didn't know why her mother left home for so many years. But Meng Yao thought that if she could see her mother first and persuade her to stay, her father wouldn't be a problem. She might even be able to give him a surprise. Thinking of this, Meng Yao decided to see her mother in private. She had completely believed Pin Liang's words, treating that person as her mother. All right. Pin Liang nodded helplessly and shouted to Xiaofu, Xiaofu, come here. What's the matter, Liang bro? Xiaofu walked over, confused. He had to admit that his acting skills were quite good. It seemed like he had rehearsed many times. Come with me and Meng Yao to Mount Shuangyan. Pin Liang ordered. Why are we going to Mount Shuangyan for? Xiaofu was surprised. Why are you asking so many questions? Are you coming? Pin Liang obviously didn't want to explain. Oh, let's go. Xiaofu stopped asking. Meng Yao didn't think that it was inappropriate for Pin Liang to bring Xiaofu out. He was Pin Liang's henchman after all. It was normal for him to bring him out. Pin Liang and Xiaofu walked in front while Meng Yao and Yushu walked behind. The four of them went down the stairs and walked out of the school gate. Sister Yao Yao, what's going on? Why do you want to go to Shuangyan Mountain? Also, who's that girl who looks like you? Yushu asked curiously as they walked. Don't ask so many questions, just follow them. Meng Yao couldn't explain it in a few words, and it was hard to tell if her mother was still there. Oh, but I don't think it's appropriate for us two girls to go to the wilderness with Pin Liang. Should we tell Shield Bro? Yushu asked, seeing that it was getting late. Just admit it if you want to talk to Lin Yi, there's no need for all these excuses. Meng Yao said mercilessly, seeing through Yushu's thoughts. You miss him, don't you? Oh, I thought Yao Yao missed me. Yushu blinked. Should we call then? Suit yourself. Meng Yao humphed, but then she thought that Shu might be doing the right thing. She should tell Lin Yi about her whereabouts. What if she got into an accident in the middle of nowhere? Yushu did miss Lin Yi a little, but she couldn't explain why. She was just used to living with Lin Yi. She wasn't used to missing someone all of a sudden. Poor little wife, always acting as the big wife's mouthpiece. Yushu took out her phone and mumbled to herself. What did you say? Meng Yao almost tripped. What big wife, little wife? You're the big wife, I'm the little wife. Yushu wasn't afraid at all. You damn Shu, do you want to have your tongue pulled out? Who's Lin Yi's big wife? Meng Yao glared at Yushu. Oh. Yao Yao really likes shield bro. Yushu raised her hands in joy. I only said big wife and little wife, I didn't say shield bros. You. I'm so pissed. Meng Yao knew that she was tricked by Yushu. The girl had been leading her step by step, but she really didn't say who the big wife and little wife were. The big wife and little wife thing seemed to be something the two of them had agreed on before, and it didn't specifically say who the husband was. She'd been tricked. She'd been tricked. Meng Yao glared at Yushu. Open your mouth. Yushu shook her head with a smile. Why? Meng Yao thought. Did this dumb girl learn to be smart? Did she know that she was going to tear her mouth off? I'm not dumb, opening my mouth and having my tongue pulled out. Yushu screamed before she could finish. Ah. No. It hurts. It hurts. Meng Yao took the opportunity to tear Yushu's mouth. A dumb girl is still a dumb girl. Only a silly girl will be liked by others. Yushu covered her mouth and mumbled. Yao Yao, you're too bad. You won't be loved in the future. What do you mean? Meng Yao asked. You bully the little wife and ruin the harmony of the family. In ancient times, you'd be an unloved queen. Yushu said. You don't want your mouth anymore, do you? Meng Yao threatened. Oh. Yushu stopped talking and took out her phone to make a call, but Xiaofu was already in a taxi. She couldn't make the call. Meng Yao, Shu, get in. Pin Liang waved at Meng Yao and Yushu after seeing that Xiaofu had flagged down a taxi. Xiaofu hailed a 7-seater Turan cab, and Meng Yao and Yushu, on the other hand, sat in the third row since they were small. Pin Liang, on the other hand, had no choice but to sit in the second row with Xiaofu. Pin Liang was so pissed that he wanted to kick Xiaofu to death. Didn't you look carefully when you flagged down a taxi? You should have flagged down a 5-seater Jetta. What were you trying to do with a 7-seater car? Pin Liang had wanted to sit with Meng Yao in the back seat. It was a 5-seater car, so there had to be 3 people in the back seat. He thought he could get intimate with Meng Yao, but it was all over now. But Meng Yao was sitting in the back seat, and Pin Liang couldn't get angry. He could only hold it in. In the car, Yushu sent a message to Lin Yi, telling him that she and Yao Yao were going to Mount Xuanyan with Pin Liang and Xiaofu. Chapter 539. The plan went smoothly. The car stopped at the foot of Mount Xuanyan. It was a rugged mountain road, so the taxi could only go there. Sir, you can only walk to the resort up there. My car can't go up there. It's a staircase. The taxi driver didn't know that Pin Liang had never been to this place before, so he explained to them. I know. Pin Liang paid the driver. Obviously, the driver thought that they were students who came to the resort. Now that the living conditions were better, it wasn't strange for young men and women to go to the resort together. So, the driver didn't suspect anything and left after taking the money. There's a resort up there. Meng Yao had never been here before. There was no need for her and Yushu to go to a resort. There was no point in going to a resort with so few people. Yes, I came to this resort with my dad last night. Pin Liang said proudly. He really did come last night with his old man, and it was Zihua's treat, along with Jin Gubang and a young man called Master Bing. Zihua was the one who'd invited him. This gave Pinliang a lot of knowledge and made him bolder. With Pinliang's background, he was a little hesitant to make a move. The cave and the plan had been prepared long ago, but Pinliang couldn't do it because he was afraid of Pengzhan's background. But after what happened yesterday, Pinliang got to know Sihua and Master Bing. Master Bing was someone with a big background. Even Sihua was respectful to him, and Pinliang's father worked for Master Bing and Sihua. Would House Zhong have to worry about not being rich in the future? So, Pinliang couldn't wait to carry out his kidnapping plan today. Meng Yao nodded. She wasn't interested in the resort. She was focused on finding her mother. Pinliang, bring me to the person who looks like me. I can't say if I can find her or not. Pinliang said. Meng Yao, don't blame me if you can't find her. Why are you talking so much? Hurry up. Meng Yao said impatiently. Pinliang snickered inwardly, but maintained his composure as he led Meng Yao and Yushu up the mountain. The sky was already dark, but there were quite a lot of people at the foot of the mountain since the resort was located halfway up the mountain. This gave Meng Yao and Yushu a sense of security, even though they didn't know it. With so many people here, nothing would happen. If there wasn't a single person around, Meng Yao would be hesitant to follow Pinliang up the mountain. Although the mountain road was rugged, it was not shaky. The four of them were all young people, so it did not take much effort for them to reach the resort halfway up the mountain. Meng Yao, are you tired? Why don't we get something to eat at the resort first? Pinliang asked. Eat what? I'm not hungry. Take me there. Meng Yao wasn't in the mood to eat. Alright, let's go then. Pinliang nodded unwillingly and continued up the mountain road. Sigh, but don't blame me if anything happens, we've been through thick and thin together. Why are you talking so much? Hurry up. Meng Yao was worried. Pinliang was taking his time, but she felt dizzy. She didn't know what was going on. Pinliang walked over and knocked on the door. Meng Yao's head was getting dizzier and dizzier. Her eyelids were starting to give out, and she was about to fall asleep. Shoo, I'm so sleepy, me too, Yao Yao, I want to sleep. Yushu said as she fell into Meng Yao's arms. Meng Yao, on the other hand, fell to the ground after being pushed by Yushu. Pinliang was overjoyed. It seemed like the incense was working, but he wasn't in a rush. What if the two woke up? After a while, Xiaofu spoke up after seeing that the two weren't moving. Liang bro, it's fine now. The owner said that they won't wake up for at least 10 hours. That's good. Get them into the house. Pinliang pointed at the door. You go open the door. Okay. Xiaofu took out the key and opened the door. Pinliang and Meng Yao hurriedly got Yushu and Meng Yao into the room. Pinliang and Xiaofu heard that the incense was powerful, but they hadn't used it before. They didn't have any experience, so they didn't dare make too much noise. They were very careful, afraid that they'd wake Meng Yao and Yushu up. After everything was done, Pinliang shook his head regretfully. It'd be great if I could touch Meng Yao's body. But he didn't dare to. He was afraid that he'd wake Meng Yao up. Yeah, leave Yushu to me. I like her. Xiaofu was drooling as well. If you want to die, you can touch her. Pinliang said coldly. I wouldn't even bother with her if I had a choice. Her background isn't something we can mess with. Xiaofu couldn't help but shiver. He'd been blinded by his lust, but Pinliang's reminder reminded him of Yushu's brother's glorious past. He quickly put away his unrealistic thoughts. Heh, I was just saying. Xiaofu laughed dryly. He knew that these two weren't the school beauties he could touch. He wanted to find a school beauty as his girlfriend, but other than these two, he couldn't touch anyone else. Tang Yun was the school beauty as well, but with a master like Lin Yi around, who would dare touch her? The new transfer, Xiao Xiao, was even more so. Xiaofu didn't dare touch her either. Xiaofu was a little dejected, this was his fate. He wasn't fated to be the school beauty. Keep these 2 phones. Pin Liang handed the 2 phones to Xiaofu. Liang bro, you keep them for yourself, I don't dare take them. Xiaofu was very careful after the scolding, afraid that he'd get dragged into it. Coward. Pin Liang humphed, not caring at all. He put the phone in his pocket. Let's go. Okay. Xiaofu didn't want to stay here any longer. He followed Pin Liang out. Pin Liang's eyes widened as the person in Yushu's photo album was none other than Lin Yi. This surprised Pin Liang. Why would Yushu have Lin Yi's photo in her phone? He flipped through it, and there were photos of Lin Yi in school, and there were photos of Lin Yi roasting the shark. There were many more similar photos. Pin Liang was speechless. This girl couldn't have fallen for Lin Yi, could she? But thinking about Yushu's personality, it was possible. But there was an 80% chance that it was just a crush. He couldn't see any relationship between Lin Yi and Yushu normally. Pin Liang let out a sigh of relief. If he let Lin Yi and Yushu get together, he'd be in deep trouble. The more he looked, the more depressed he got. He turned off Yushu's phone and shook his head. He didn't expect this at all. Did Meng Yao know about Yushu's crush on Lin Yi? But it wasn't his business. Pin Liang didn't have the time to care about stuff like this, especially when it involved Lin Yi. He didn't want to care about it. What if he got himself into trouble again? When school was finally over, Pin Liang stuffed Meng Yao and Yushu's phones back into their bags and walked out of the school alone. He didn't bring Xiaofu with him this time. There was no need. It'd be troublesome if Xiaofu got involved. Faubert's Bentley had been parked at the alley in front of the school for the past 3 years. Pin Liang remembered it very clearly. He found Faubert's Bentley easily. Pin Liang took a deep breath to calm himself down before knocking on the window. What's up? Faubert knew Pin Liang, as well as that he was the nephew of the company's previous shareholder, Jean Gubang. He was also Meng Yao's admirer. Faubert, take me to Uncle Chu. Pin Liang ordered Faubert with an unquestionable tone. With that, he opened the passenger door and got in the car. Oh. You want to see Mr. Chu? Faubert frowned. He didn't expect Pin Liang to be this impolite, getting in the car directly. Even if Jean Gubang was a shareholder of the company, he didn't have the right to do this, did he? Not to mention that Jean Gubang wasn't. Faubert's sharp senses told him that something was amiss. If Pin Liang wasn't out of his mind, then he had something to rely on. So Faubert didn't chase him away right away. He wanted to know more about Pin Liang first. That's right. This happened so suddenly. I have to talk to Uncle Chu face to face. Pin Liang said fearlessly. Oh, then we'll wait for Yao Yao. You come with us. Faubert didn't say anything else after seeing how confident Pin Liang was. As for what he wanted to do, that was Mr. Chu's business. Faubert didn't have the right to ask. No need to wait. Yao Yao is at my house. Pin Liang said proudly. She's my girlfriend from now on. The most important thing for you now is to bring me to Uncle Chu. I need to talk to him about me and Yao Yao. Faubert paused. He looked at Pin Liang in disbelief. He started to suspect that Meng Yao had become Pin Liang's girlfriend. This was impossible in Faubert's eyes. Faubert took out his phone and dialed Meng Yao's number. However, her phone was turned off. He dialed Yushu's number again. It was the same. Faubert put down his phone and said, since you want to see Mr. Chu, then let's go. He thought that Peng Zhan believed him, and was overjoyed. He hung up and ordered Li Fu. "Did you hear that? Uncle Chu wants you to bring me to the company." "Okay." Faubert didn't say anything else. He put away his phone and turned the car towards Peng Zhan Industries. Pin Liang was in a very good mood as he looked at Peng Zhan's skyscraper. He was about to become Peng Zhan's son-in-law, and Peng Zhan didn't have a son. Did this mean that the family business would be his from now on? With that in mind, Pin Liang started calculating in his heart. When he saw Peng Zhan later, he'd do whatever it took to convince him to accept him as his son-in-law. Peng Zhan was in the middle of a meeting when he heard that something had happened to his daughter. He ended the meeting quickly and returned to his office. In fact, Peng Zhan didn't really believe Pin Liang's words. His daughter would have fallen for Pin Liang a long time ago if she could. She wouldn't have waited until now. Pin Liang's claim that Meng Yao had agreed to be his girlfriend was complete bullshit. But Peng Zhan was puzzled. Why would Faubert be messing around with Pin Liang? There could only be one reason. His daughter was missing. Faubert must have gone to pick up his daughter from school. He must have waited for Pin Liang because he didn't get his daughter. With that in mind, Peng Zhan gave Meng Yao and Yushu a call, confirming his suspicions after hearing that their phones had been turned off. Peng Zhan was calmer than usual after the company's turmoil, and as anxious as he was, he didn't let it show on his face. He sat quietly in front of his desk, waiting for Pin Liang to show up. After about half an hour, Faubert brought Pin Liang to Peng Zhan's office. "Hello, Uncle Chu." Pin Liang bowed to Peng Zhan as if he was a son-in-law visiting his home. "Pin Liang, have a seat." Peng Zhan gestured for Pin Liang to sit. He then turned to Faubert. "Pour some tea." "How can I trouble Faubert? I'll do it myself." Pin Liang was overjoyed. Was Peng Zhan accepting him? Otherwise, what kind of status did Fu Bo have? How could he let him pour tea for him personally? Pin Liang knew about Faubert's identity through his uncle. He was a man of authority in the company. He might only be a driver, but he was Peng Zhan's confidant. Normal employees wouldn't dare let Faubert pour tea for them. Faubert only worked for Peng Zhan and Meng Yao. Now that Peng Zhan was letting Faubert pour tea for him, did that mean that he was accepted by Peng Zhan as his son-in-law? Pin Liang thought excitedly. He hadn't even said anything yet, and Peng Zhan believed him already. "You kidnapped my daughter?" Peng Zhan's cold voice rang out in his head. "Wah." Pin Liang was just about to take the cup of tea from Uncle Fu when he jumped in fright, dropping the teacup in his hand onto the floor, shattering into pieces. "Uncle Chu. Don't say that, How could I possibly do something illegal like that?" Chapter 543. Two possibilities. She's resting in my house. Didn't I tell you? Yao Yao and I are already in a relationship. Pin Liang said calmly. He knew that he couldn't lower his head. His plan would be ruined if he did. Relationship? What relationship? Peng Zhan asked. It's a boyfriend and girlfriend relationship. Pin Liang tried to calm himself down. Think about it, what relationship can there be? Then why is she in your house? Why didn't she come with you? Peng Zhan didn't believe Pin Liang. She's tired and fell asleep. You know, girls usually have trouble moving around when they do it for the first time. Pin Liang said embarrassedly. First of all, she was embarrassed. Second of all, I was worried that she wouldn't be able to move around, so I let her sleep at home and rest. Oh. Is that so? Peng Zhan frowned. He didn't believe that his daughter would have a relationship with another guy so casually. Although his daughter had grown up, this kind of thing wasn't something that could be done so casually. Even if Meng Yao and Lin Yi did it, Peng Zhan would still be suspicious, let alone Pin Liang who Meng Yao didn't like. Unless his daughter was confused. Wait. Confused? Could it be that Pin Liang had done something? Peng Zhan was enraged at the thought. If this kid dared to do it, Peng Zhan would kill him even if he had to give up his family business. Pin Liang felt a little guilty when he saw the unfriendly look on Peng Zhan's face, but he didn't want to back down. Uncle Chu, don't worry, Yao Yao's fine. She's just a little tired and fell asleep. Then tell me, how did you two get together? What did my daughter promise you? The more Peng Zhan looked at Pin Liang, the more he felt that something was wrong. He was someone who had been in the business world for many years. How could he not be observant? Not to mention a noob high school student like Pin Liang, even those old foxes in the business world wouldn't be able to tell if something was wrong under Peng Zhan's observation. Hence, Peng Zhan felt that Pin Liang wasn't telling the truth. Of course, there were two kinds of lies. Peng Zhan wasn't sure which one it was. The good news was that his daughter was completely fine, and Pin Liang was just bluffing. The worst-case scenario was that half of what Pin Liang said was true. He really did do something to Meng Yao, but his methods weren't that glorious. Uncle Chu, you also know that I have been pursuing Yao Yao. Wasn't he going to graduate soon? I thought that if I didn't confess now, I wouldn't have another chance. Pin Liang had already thought of an excuse, so when Peng Zhan asked, he went straight to the point. A couple of days ago, on the tree planting day, I prepared a show of my love for you guys that never sleeps. I used fireworks to form the words Yao Yao, I love you. That day, all the teachers and students were there, they could all bear witness. Pin Liang didn't have to be polite anymore since he had already fallen out with Peng Zhan. He crossed his legs playfully. Boys and girls together, what do you think? Uncle Chu. Chapter 544. Chapter 544, Zhong Pin Liang, I've already done it. What's there to be afraid of? Pin Liang said calmly. Uncle Chu, since you already know, I'll be honest with you. You have to acknowledge me as your son-in-law, even if you don't want to acknowledge me as your son-in-law. I've already done what I should, and I didn't use any contraceptive measures. I'm planning to give birth to this child. It's fine if you don't want to acknowledge me as your grandfather. My family can afford it. My father is more than happy to have a grandson or granddaughter with him. How dare you come to my office? Aren't you afraid that I'll send you to the police station? Peng Zhan couldn't tell if Pin Liang was telling the truth or not, but he was absolutely furious. He hadn't been this furious even when Gubang and Guangbua were trying to take over Peng Zhan Industries. He was sad and regretful at that time, but now, he wanted to strangle Pin Liang to death. I don't think you would. Pin Liang shook his head. Uncle Chu, you're considered a respectable person in Songshan, and Peng Zhan Industries is one of the top 500 companies in the country. Uncle Chu's family matters have a lot of media attention. If you're not afraid of losing face, you should blow this matter up. Let's see who will benefit from it. At most, my crime is drugging and raping Meng Yao, who took the aphrodisiac drug. At most, I'll give in half. Let's not talk about whether we can find any evidence. Even if we can, I'll only be sentenced to a few years. Oh, I forgot to tell you, Uncle Chu. My father and Sihua Bro are working for Master Bing now. Master Bing won't let me go to jail, right? Peng Zhan naturally knew the name, Master Bing. He also knew that the deal between Gubang and Sihua was for this, Master Bing. The so-called Master Bing was the illegitimate son of the heir of a noble house. That house was very influential in the province, and Master Bing was quite capable as well. This was also the main reason why Peng Zhan didn't retaliate after knowing who the mastermind behind the scheme was. Peng Zhan couldn't even arm wrestle with Sihua, let alone fight against Master Bing. Peng Zhan didn't want to have anything to do with people like that. He was a proper businessman, and he wasn't Sihua's opponent. What surprised Peng Zhan was that Pin Liang's father, Zhong Fabai, was working for Master Bing. What did Master Bing see in Fabai? Peng Zhan's expression changed, and Pin Liang knew that Peng Zhan was afraid. He was overjoyed. I knew you were afraid. Thus, he continued to add fuel to the fire. Uncle Chu, you have to think carefully. I'll go to jail for a few years at most, but the jail is full of Tsihua Bro's people, and I'll be taken care of after I get in. I'm going to enjoy myself for a few years, and you're going to offend Tsihua Bro. Most importantly, if you mess up Master Bing's plans, I don't have to tell you what the consequences will be. Nothing would really happen to Meng Yao this way, and he believed that Peng Zhan wouldn't hold him responsible for anything. After all, Meng Yao was fine. If Peng Zhan continued to pester her, then he'd be an idiot. Master Bing and Tsihua weren't people to be messed with. This was why Pin Liang wasn't afraid. He was hesitant before, but after knowing the relationship between Tsihua and Master Bing, he became bolder. So, Lin Yi couldn't detect his true strength. Unless Faubert gathered his strength and attacked, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to detect it. However, when he was with Faubert, Faubert almost never attacked. Until now, Lin Yi still hadn't figured out the reason why Faubert's strength didn't exist. He quickly let go, but he didn't know if he should push her away or let her hug him. Luckily, after a while, Xiao Xiao let go of Lin Yi and looked up at Lin Yi shyly. Is it nice to touch? Lin Yi thought that the old saying made sense. What did it mean to touch someone's hand was shorter? Wasn't he the perfect example? But Lin Yi wasn't the type of person who wavered. He didn't want to lie when Xiao Xiao asked, so he nodded. Xiao Xiao couldn't help but smile after getting Lin Yi's confirmation. You've never touched Tang Yun before? Lin Yi shook his head. Chapter 548. The same hardcover. Lin Yi wanted to say that he touched Yushu before, but he thought that it was a misunderstanding, so he nodded. It's my first time being touched. Xiao Xiao's smile turned shy. Lin Yi sighed. They weren't going to talk about taking responsibility, were they? This made Lin Yi feel awkward. It's fine, I'm doing this voluntarily. Xiao Xiao gathered her courage, wanting to threaten him with this, but she couldn't bring herself to say it. The words just came out of her mouth, and they just turned into soft, silly words. Ah. Lin Yi didn't expect Xiao Xiao to say that. He looked at her in disbelief. I'm really sleepy. I'm going to sleep for a while. With that, Xiao Xiao closed her eyes and laid on the back of the chair. This time, she didn't listen to Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't understand Xiao Xiao's attitude. Was this still the Xiao Xiao he knew? What was she trying to do? This scene made Lin Yi's understanding of Xiao Xiao a little blurry. All of a sudden, her attitude changed. What was going on with Xiao Xiao? Seeing that Xiao Xiao didn't want to talk to him anymore, Lin Yi closed his eyes helplessly. Lin Yi found it very strange that Xiao Xiao would let go of this so easily. How could he be in the mood to sleep? The auction went on as planned, and many of the items were sold at very high prices. Miracle Dr. Kang's family didn't buy anything, but they were still very happy sitting there. Dr. Kang felt that he was going to become the head of a noble house soon. He would be like these people, with an extraordinary position in society. As long as he had the title of a noble house, his path would become wider. Whether it was buying materials or selling, he would break through his current bottleneck, ushering in a new era for House Kang. Today, it was obvious that the noble house's attitudes towards Miracle Dr. Kong were much warmer than before. This was the reason why Miracle Dr. Kong was so confident. Only House Yu's attitude was a little vague. Haitian nodded at Miracle Dr. Kong calmly, not saying a word. But Dr. Kong thought that House Yu was just trying to avoid arousing suspicion. House Yu was the organizer of the noble house meeting. If they were too close to House Kong, how would people think of them? Sure enough, the third auction is filled with good stuff. Kong Guifeng looked at the people who won the auction enviously, taking all the rare treasures for themselves. Hee, next year, House Kong will return with a full load. This year is a year of development, and we need to use our funds in the right place. Dr. Kong was envious as well. But thinking about the bright future, he was full of confidence. Seeing that the last item was won by a noble house's disciple, Dr. Kong closed the auction catalogue in his hands. He was about to leave when the auctioneer continued, "This auction will be the same as yesterday." Chapter 549. Where did the formula come from? Fatty Lai was looking forward to this opportunity as well. Being able to promote the company was a good thing, so he stood up and walked to the auction stage. It was Fatty Lai's second time on the stage. Even the heads of noble houses didn't get this kind of treatment, but House Yu gave him this face. Of course, this face was for Guan Shuimin. Only Guan Shuimin would receive this kind of treatment. Ladies and gentlemen, good day. I believe everyone is curious about what our company's injury medicine and special edition injury medicine are. Fatty Lai said calmly. Now, I'll answer everyone's questions. Of course, other than Miracle Dr. Kang's family, the other noble houses and wealthy businessmen were all very interested in it. Even if it was the same as Dr. Kang's golden creation, they would still be interested. After all, having Miracle Dr. Guan meant that they had another choice. They didn't need to beg Dr. Kang's family anymore. Luckily, we made the skin beautifying golden creation. Otherwise, there'd be changes to the noble house promotion. Miracle Dr. Kong was gritting his teeth in anger. How did they get the recipe? Miracle Dr. Kong gritted his teeth in anger. They probably made it up, Kong Guifeng said. Fake products won't stand the test of the market. If it's something useless, they wouldn't dare to take it out. Zhao Long saw it clearly. Grandpa's right, we're one step ahead of them. We made the skin beautifying golden creation, and we made it at the perfect time to be ahead of others. Fatty Lai, naturally, didn't know what the Kangs were talking about. If he did, he'd probably laugh his head off. This injury medicine is used to stop bleeding and nourish the muscles, allowing the wound to heal faster without leaving any scars. Fatty Lai's words caused an uproar. Wasn't this the same effect as Dr. Kang's golden creation? Dr. Kang's face was ashen. It was one thing to make a guess, but it was another to confirm it. His face wasn't looking good. Anyone can brag. The key is that it has to be effective. Kong Guifeng snorted coldly. Grandpa, does Kong Xiaobo's family have our recipe? Zhao Long suddenly thought of something else. Was the recipe leaked? I don't think so. You're suspecting that they have the formula as well? Dr. Kong understood what Zhao Long meant immediately. Yes, Kong Xiaobo has a good relationship with them. I'm afraid that the formula was leaked by Kong Xiaobo. Zhao Long frowned, otherwise, why didn't they start the company earlier? Why did he set up the company after he met Kong Xiaobo, and why did he come up with the exact same medicine? Boss probably hasn't seen the recipe. Miracle Dr. Kong shook his head. He'd fallen out with his brother, but it was because of this recipe that they'd fallen out. He'd wanted to use this recipe to get rich, but his brother had insisted that he couldn't touch it or even look at it. Wouldn't it be great if they had the opportunity to advertise their other products? Guifeng heard Xiaolong's words and nodded. His son was right, but the more he thought about it, the more confused he became. Dr. Kong looked at Xiaolong, pleased. Xiaolong, you've thought this through. So, they really do have the goods. I'm guessing so. Xiaolong said. Either they've hoarded a large amount of raw materials at a high price, enough to last them for a while, or they're trying to lose money and expand their reputation, or they have other sources of raw materials. Yes, you're right. Dr. Kong nodded. Looks like the opponent is strong. We've underestimated him. Don't worry. Xiaolong shook his head. Chapter 550. Guanxua means bullying. It doesn't matter if they're buying at a high price or if they have other sources, the problem of cost is unavoidable. Xiaolong smiled. All the sources are monopolized by us House Kong, but they're still able to buy raw materials. What does that mean? It means that they're selling at a high price, squeezed out from somewhere else. If that's the case, their cost won't be enough. Our cost for a bottle of golden creation is around 150 renminbi, and they're selling it at 199 renminbi. After deducting the cost, the channel fees, and the retailer's profit, what do they have left? It's just enough. And that's according to our cost. If it's according to their high cost, they'll be making a loss. Yeah. Their price is too low. Kong Guifeng understood the crux of the problem. That's why we just need to wait and see. Xiaolong laughed coldly. I think the opponent is a very rich financial group, and with Guan Xuemin's support, they'll naturally want to become famous. But we've already taken over the market, and they can only do so by selling at a low price. If we want to take back the market, we have to lower our prices, and they'll definitely lower their prices again, forcing us to lower our prices. It'll be a vicious cycle. With them in the market, the price of raw materials will increase, and our cost will increase as well. This way, everyone will lose more and more money, and once our House Kang's cash flow is in trouble, we'll be done for. It's a very obvious way to compete in the market, but I have to say that it's very effective. Many people have fallen for it. Xiaolong's right. If we lower our prices for a temporary market share, we'll be falling for the opponent's trap. They'll continue to lower their prices and force us to our deaths. Since they're planning to lose money, they must be very powerful. All we have to do is sit back and watch. Dr. Kong agreed. We won't lower our prices and let them play. Let's see how long they can keep losing money. Son, your analysis is very thorough. I have to say, you're really mean. They're really unlucky to have a competitor like you. Kong Guifeng was very impressed with his son. Dad, are you praising me or scolding me? You said I'm bad. Xiaolong said it like that, but he was actually quite pleased with himself. He had seen through the enemy's scheme, and he felt like he was the fisherman behind the scenes. Of course, under normal circumstances, Xiaolong's idea wasn't wrong at all. In fact, it was quite accurate. However, this matter was unusual. This time, the product we are auctioning is the special edition of the injury medicine. Naturally, it is different from the one you can buy on the market. Fatty Lai continued on the stage, this is the special edition of the injury medicine. Naturally, it has extraordinary effects. Not only does it have the basic effects of an injury medicine, but it also has the effect of beautifying the skin. Fatty Lai wanted to spend some time to convince Lin Yi, but Lin Yi agreed immediately when he heard that it was to attack House Kong. Lin Yi was duty-bound to avenge his little brother, Kong Xiaobo. Lin Yi was especially impressed that Fatty Lai was willing to give up the portion that belonged to him. This made Lin Yi slowly accept Fatty Lai, and he was ready to make him his confidant. Chapter 551. You have to compensate me. House. You didn't like House Kang's way of using the opportunity to blackmail them. They had no choice but to agree to become a noble house. But now, it wasn't necessary anymore. What you have, Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company has it too. What right do you have to become a noble house? On the other hand, if Guan Shuamin wanted to become a noble house, you would probably cooperate with him. They might even become the fifth noble house. From this, one could see the importance of a miracle doctor. The auction quantity is 30 finished products and 50 pre-sale products. The price of the finished product is 2.99 million, and the pre-sale product is 2 million. First come, first served, the auctioneer introduced the rules of the auction. Everyone knew the rules of this auction. There was a red button on the table in front of them. When the auctioneer said, "Start," everyone could press the button to start the auction. The first person to press the button would get the item. Of course, no one would offend anyone in this situation. One person could bid for more than one item. Usually, the people would press the button according to the size of the family and the status of the rich and famous people. Only when there were more people left would they start the fair auction. This shocking price made the two wealthy businessmen who had spent more than 10 million on the pre-sale items the day before, instantly dumbfounded. They spent so much money on the pre-sale product, but the finished product was only 2.99 million. Of course, this was Fatty Lie's last-minute price increase. Those who didn't bid were all glad that they didn't rush to the end of the auction yesterday. Otherwise, they would have lost a lot. Dr. Kang's family was completely dumbfounded. They didn't expect Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company to take out 30 finished products and 50 pre-sale products at once. They were ashamed of themselves. Yesterday, they were acting all mysterious, making people think that it was a good thing. They only made 2 trial products and they were even pre-sale products. Today, they were mass-producing it. Wasn't it obvious that they weren't as good as Miracle Dr. Guan's? This was so embarrassing. Fuck, didn't they not get the Millennium Snow Lotus? Why are there pre-sale products? Where did they get it from? Kong Guifeng was so angry that he wanted to stand up and curse. Wasn't this too much? He felt his face burning. Dr. Kong didn't say anything, but from his expression, it was obvious that he was in a very bad mood. Zhao Long, on the other hand, was frowning. After a while, he relaxed his brows and smiled. "Grandpa, Dad, did you forget what I said? If they are willing to pay, then let them pay. We will just wait and see. As long as we do our job well, it's up to them what they want to do. If they have the ability, they can pay for a year and continue to pay for next year's auction." From the miss, the answer Lin Yi got was that he was a shield. Of course, Lin Yi didn't believe that it was that simple, but he had no other choice. And so, Lin Yi was like a butler. Whether it was Peng Zhan's company, the Miss Studies, or her best friend Shu, Lin Yi did everything he could to help. Not only did he have to be the babysitter for these 2 girls, but he also had to be a bodyguard. He even had to be a thug at school. But as time went on, Lin Yi got used to it. This mission was really complicated. From start to finish, it didn't seem like he had anything to do, but things never stopped. If it weren't for the old man's promise that the reward for this mission would be enough for him to retire, Lin Yi would have questioned it long ago. This miss really didn't let him have peace of mind. If something happened to her, Lin Yi couldn't just ignore it. It wasn't just the problem of Peng Zhan being his employer anymore. Lin Yi really did have some feelings for Meng Yao and Yushu. After all, they lived under the same roof every day. If they were in danger, Lin Yi would definitely help them. Although the auction had ended, there were still some follow-up matters to take care of. The seller and the buyer had to stay behind. Lin Yi said goodbye to Guan Shuamin and Fatty Lai and took the plane back to Songshan that night. He couldn't book economy-class tickets anymore. He could only book first-class tickets, but Faubert booked them directly. After getting off the plane, Lin Yi saw Faubert waiting at the arrival gate. Faubert. Lin Yi walked over quickly. "Mr. Lin, it's been a long journey." Faubert said apologetically. "I made you come back in such a hurry." "It's nothing. Something happened to Yao Yao, of course I had to come back." Lin Yi didn't expect Faubert to be so polite. In fact, Lin Yi felt a little guilty. After all, Meng Yao was in trouble when he was away. If one were to talk about responsibility, he was also responsible. Although Peng Zhan didn't explicitly say that he would be Meng Yao's bodyguard, he only asked him to be a follower. But this kind of follower was more complicated. "Mr. Chu is waiting for you. This way please." Faubert didn't say anything else. It wasn't appropriate for him to say too much. In the parking lot of the airport, in Faubert's Bentley, Lin Yi saw Peng Zhan. Lin Yi didn't expect Peng Zhan to come to pick him up. It was obvious that it was an emergency. Peng Zhan couldn't wait to meet him. "Lin Yi, listen to this recording first." Peng Zhan didn't waste time with small talk. He passed a recording pen to Lin Yi. Lin Yi nodded and pressed the play button. Pinliang's voice came from the recording pen. "Hello, Uncle Chu." It was a recording Peng Zhan had made during Pinliang's visit. It was the evidence Peng Zhan had left behind, but there was no need for him to go through the trouble of narrating the whole thing. The recording was enough to explain everything. Lin Yi frowned after listening to the recording. Pinliang dared to touch Meng Yao. "Uncle Chu, what do you mean?" Lin Yi wanted to know Peng Zhan's plan first. Faubert already checked. Yao Yao isn't at Pinliang's house. Pinliang didn't do anything strange today. He went to school, left school, and went home normally. Peng Zhan said. "I thought Pinliang would find a chance to meet with Meng Yao, but he didn't." "Ha! Then Yao Yao should be fine." Lin Yi sighed and smiled. "Maybe, but it might be poison left behind by Pinliang. If we eat it, we'll be committing suicide." Meng Yao didn't think that the bag was food, but she couldn't understand why Pinliang would leave food behind after locking them up. It wasn't like he wanted her and Yushu to survive, because there was food and no water. It was fine if a person didn't eat, but if they didn't drink water, they'd die faster. So, Meng Yao guessed that there might be poison in the bag, and Pinliang left it behind on purpose so that they would commit suicide. This was also Pinliang's mistake. He thought too simply and didn't consider the problem of water. He thought that Meng Yao and the others could survive as long as there was food. "Oh, then I won't eat." Yushu was shocked and quickly gave up on the idea. "But, I still want to drink water and eat." "Alright, Shu, let's sleep for a while. You won't be hungry or thirsty if you sleep." Meng Yao was also hungry and thirsty, but she had to act like an older sister. She comforted Yushu. "Didn't you say that Lin Yi would definitely come to save us?" "Oh. Okay then." Yushu closed her eyes. Meng Yao sighed softly. It must be night now because there was no light from the peephole of the door. Meng Yao remembered clearly that the door faced the entrance of the cave. If it was daytime outside, they would be able to see the scene outside. Time passed, and the two girls snuggled against each other. Meng Yao could hear Yushu's even breathing, and she knew that Yushu had fallen asleep. Meng Yao was tired as well, so she fell asleep as well. When the two woke up again, there was a sliver of light coming from the peephole. It was daytime outside the cave. Of course, the two of them were not awakened by this weak light. Instead, they were awakened by a parched throat. They hadn't drunk a drop of water for more than 10 hours, and both of them were extremely thirsty. Yushu didn't feel hungry anymore. She just felt thirsty and wanted to drink water. Yao Yao, I'm thirsty, I really want to drink water. Yushu said with a hoarse voice, struggling to speak. Shu, be a good girl. Just bear with it. Meng Yao patted Yushu's back and said firmly. Lin Yi will definitely come to save us. Oh. Are you sure? Yushu didn't have much confidence now. She thought that Lin Yi would come soon, but it had been a night and Lin Yi wasn't here yet. She didn't know what time it was, but it must be the next day. And, if he doesn't come, I'll fire him. Meng Yao comforted. Yushu wanted to say that if he didn't come, how could she fire him? But in her heart, she hoped that Lin Yi would come. He was her last hope, and she didn't want her hope to be destroyed. Yao Yao, am I going to die? Why do I feel so weak? I just woke up and I want to sleep again. Yushu struggled to hold Meng Yao's hand. No, you're just too hungry, that's why you don't have any energy. Meng Yao shook her head.